sent me a clip of it or something. He's like, Chris Jericho better watch it WrestleMania. And that's when I think word had gotten around, so that Vince called me into his office and said, here's what we're going to do. You're going to have the match with Mickey Rourke at WrestleMania. It's going to be an attraction, which is what I said. Certain matches at Mania are earmarked to be the classics, or at least given a shot to be. Others are on the show just to give everybody a reason to be in the park. Others are attractions. Ronda Rousey this year was the attraction. This was going to be Mickey Rourke versus Jericho. He's like, I can have a match with this guy. We can train. He obviously knows the concept of wrestling. He has just done some wrestling. We'll be able to I can do a match with him, with bells and whistles, etc., etc. And then, because he called me out at SAG Awards, his agents flipped out because I heard a story around that time that there's a movie called Norbit, or Eddie Murphy, and he had done a movie called Dreamgirls, and he was up for an Oscar. And right in the middle of Oscar season, this Norbit came out, which was very racist, and he's playing like a fat lady, and it was very dick and fart joke humor. And the Academy was like, we can't award this guy the best actor because he's in this dick and fart joke awful movie. And that's kind of what happened to Mickey. We're like, you're not going to win an Oscar if you're involved with the WWE, the dirty scumbags, the WWE. You can't do this match, you have to pull out. And Vince was so mad because he wasn't going to announce the match until after the Oscars. But Rourke, whatever happened, I think he got excited, maybe he's a little loaded, he announced himself, and he's just like, I knew as soon as he announced it, the match was off. So I remember hearing it, and Vince is like, his motto is you take a negative and turn it to a positive, and he was spinning his wheels, and the idea of the wrestler was these guys that hang on too long. And I would now wrestle with 3 guys that had hung on too long, which would be Piper, Snuka, and Greg Valentine. And I remember thinking, God bless all of them Hall of Famers, but at the time, none of them could do anything. I mean, Piper was very limited, Snuka could hardly walk, and Valentine never did anything. And not that I couldn't adapt, but I wanted work. I remember telling Vince, it's WrestleMania. It's well, it's like, it's an attraction. I understand, but I want to be able to do something. I don't want to stick out the job. So I started thinking maybe we could replace somebody in Vince's rules by his own design, where the guys in the match had to be in WrestleMania 1, and B had to be in the Hall of Fame. And these are non-existent rules, but they were Vince's rules in his mind. So, because I suggested, well, why don't we take Greg the Hammer out, being the smallest of the names, and put Jerry Lawler. Jerry had never had a WrestleMania match and all this stuff. And he's like, no, he wasn't in the first WrestleMania. There's no rules. It's your rules. That's my rule. And then I said, what about Steamboat? He goes, well, I don't even know if we can even use his name. And he has to have a lawsuit with his wife, or his wife with the name. Found out that he could use his name. Found out that he was going into the Hall of Fame that year. So Vince switched it. Snuka, Piper, and Steamboat. And I'm like, this is great. I know I can do something with Steamboat. Steamboat was one of my heroes when I was a kid, along with Owen Hart and Shawn Michaels. Never got to work with Owen, but I had this great thing with Shawn. And then now I can do something with Steamboat. And we did the match, and it turned out so great. Steamboat was so good that Vince signed him to be like a player coach. We ended up having about 6 or 7 more matches. We had one in Hawaii, we had one in Japan, we had one in Greenville, South Carolina, which is like a Steamboat hot spot. And we actually had a mini program in the next pay-per-view Backlash, and it was really, really cool. And that, to me, was the funnest part. Because listen, Ronnie was great, and I know he was mad because I beat him in like a minute with like an enziguri. I beat Snuka with the walls, and then beat Steamboat with the code breaker. But at least with Steamboat, it was really cool. And we built it up well. So Flair was out there, and then Rourke came in at the end and punched me in the face, and, gets the celebrity. I was very surprised when I saw KO after, and he's like, Vince said it was one of the worst matches in WrestleMania history. And I was like, what?
Hey, this is Edge, the Rated R Superstar. You're watching the Inside Ropes YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. So here, Royal Rumble, right? I was the third last competitor in there. So at the same time, and it's like, uh-oh, Cena and Batista were in there last, right? And everyone remembers that they went out at the same time, and it's like, uh-oh. What you might not remember is I was the third last competitor in there. So I get eliminated. I'm going down starting to get up and go down the ramp, and I see them both land. I went, oh,
tomorrow, because I know Ebro is going to make fun of me for it. If I don't ever have anything at this point that I dress up for, that is when you start getting into really depressive tendencies. Like, you have to continue to be like, oh no, I care about this. I'm going to treat this differently than I treat other things. Otherwise, your life is just a complete mush.
That's true. You have to differentiate. Like, there has to be. That's why, I mean, I like all these parents that are putting out their Corona schedules. That are going like at 9 a.m. we do this, and then at 10 a.m. It's like some people are like, hey, why don't you relax? You just get to stay home. And it's like, no, you have to have a life.
No, if you save your relaxing for Saturday and Sunday still.
Right.
Like, you don't need to have a schedule Saturday and Sunday. But Monday through Friday, yeah, I do think it's important to try to, like, keep some semblance of a thing going.
Peter Rosenberg, you would know this better than most. I believe it was the great Curtis Jackson that said sunny days wouldn't be special if it wasn't for rain.
I think I don't know if he was the only one.
I think he
said it best.
I thought he was the first that realized that. I didn't realize that until he said it, but, so be it. So, of course, we're not the only ones affected by this. The whole world's affected by this. Needless to say, WWE and WrestleMania. In terms of timing, if we could trivialize this pandemic for a second and just bring it right back to wrestling, because at the end of the day, wrestling podcasts are an escape from the reality that we live in. So if we could just talk about this in the context of wrestling, to have a pandemic really hit the U.S. middle of March is literally the worst possible timing for wrestling.
I mean, listen, again, from a completely selfish standpoint,
yes.
I had been working on my return to WWE starting in, I looked recently, the first conversation was had in early December. Early December.
Wow.
So, things take time.
Yeah.
New Year comes. Hey, we're going to call you after New Year's. Okay, cool, whatever. And then in late January, early February, I guess, the work started getting done. And the whole time was like, hey, well, no matter what, you'll be back for Elimination Chamber, and boom, WrestleMania. And I'm like, this is so cool. I did not expect to come back. What awesome timing. So excited to surprise everyone, both people who follow me, but even more so the people like you, who I'm friends with, like, who I'm going to see and be like, I'm back.
Yeah.
Like, so from a completely selfish standpoint, I was so excited for this week in Tampa of having a little bit of like, hey, dude, welcome back. This is awesome. And so it's like a double gut punch. Not only do I lose that, but you're also really losing the pageantry of WrestleMania for everybody.
Yeah.
It's no matter how much, and you and I can get into what it'll look like and what's good about it, what's bad about it, but I think there's no way to sugarcoat that if you're at the PC and you're not at a stadium celebrating with 80,000 wrestling fans, this is not the same thing.
No, it's definitely not. And we will definitely get into my breakdown, because I got some hot takes and I got some ideas for WrestleMania. But before that, you talking about coming back and everything just reminded me, because I've been meaning to ask you, when you left WWE, it was before the world had turned on me.
Yes.
What was it like for you to come back and scroll through your app mentions and really, because I saw them just be inundated with, thank God you're not Sam Roberts. I hope you're replacing Sam Roberts. Please God, let this mean they fired Sam Roberts. Like, I feel like you have not seen that directed straight to you.
Right.
What was that experience like?
Well, I got a couple stray tweets over time, but I was on social media for a while, especially when you were first. You didn't turn on anyone. When they turned on
the world turned on me. I simply, they were like, hey Sam, the same thing they do for you. Hey Sam, you come and just give your opinion, right? And I go, oh, okay, I just give my opinion. And the world turned on me, and I continue to give my opinion regardless. Yeah.
So since the world turned on you, I wasn't on social media at that time, but when I came back, it was funny to see. I mean, I really enjoyed the entire thing, and I just knew what a kick you got out of it. And then when I saw that they started going live at the NXT takeovers in the arena,
yeah,
I was like, oh my god, this is perfect. This gives it so much life.
Yeah.
Because honestly, are you allowed to curse in this podcast or no?
You can, yeah. I mean, it's my podcast. I don't have any.
Who gives a shit about people on Twitter not liking you? But if you can give me booze in the arena, now we're doing it.
So that's when it was like, okay, you've impressed me. Okay, all right.
Because
I appreciate that.
I guess angry tweets are cool, but tweets are tweets. But when you start talking at the kickoff shows and the booze just start no matter what you say, that is legitimate heat. I mean, that's not turn off the TV heat. That's heat, baby.
Yeah.
So I love it. And I mean, unfortunately, I think once I'm back long enough, people will begin to hate me again. But I hope I'll gladly be the baby face to your heel any day of the week. I just think people naturally and organically hate me, and they will take to it again soon.
That's possible, but I do like to think that I've helped make it a warmer place for you out there.
Honestly, I really hope you did. And listen, I'll lean right into it.
Yeah.
I'll lean right into it. And then how do you like that on my first day back, we have a whole bit of R-Truth calling me Seth Rollins?
I was sitting there, and I told my wife, I'm like, look, if they just mention my name and talk about me every show, and I still get all these people on, you know...
Call me later.
Online saying that they hate me. I don't even know if I have to do these shows anymore. Like, just kind of bring me up, and that should be
By the way,
fine.
this was a great wrestling moment. So, without giving away too much information,
Yeah.
I think those who follow you and I and wrestling, more importantly, closely enough, obviously could see what that bit with R-Truth on the kickoff show was. I mean, considering R-Truth was a guest on your show last week, he clearly knows the difference between you and me.
What? He was literally in my house 2 days before. He was at the pay-per-view.
Before
Yeah.
that. Okay, before that. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, it was amazing to see, as always, people who aren't in the wrestling world all took that completely at face value.
It's great. I love it.
They all were like, I can't believe they confused you with the other guy. So I looked up Sam Roberts. You don't look anything like him. I'm like, you still don't know what this is, huh? You
That's
still don't get it.
Dude, whenever you get that, you just go like this. I know. I was really insulted. We're heading to another Raw. First of all, how do you feel about the inclusion of pre-taped matches? I'll say that I think it's been done. First of all, I think it's a necessary thing. Like, I think that you kind of needed to break up what's going on at the Performance Center. And I also like that it actually has been matches that pertain to what's going on. I said, okay, I mean, it's getting really weird. I literally came on the podcast. I don't remember if it was this one or the Patreon one, but anybody that listens to all the Not Sam Wrestling podcast knows that I came on and said they need to do a six-pack challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and they need to play the John Cena Bray Wyatt WrestleMania 30 match on SmackDown. And I turned on SmackDown, and they were like,
that was the whole show.
They were like, here, we just listened to your podcast and we did a show. So, what do you think about the way that the Performance Center shows have gone, including the pre-tape matches?
What brings you in today?
So it's a mixed bag. I think there have been things that are good and things that are bad. I think the good is getting away from straight up promos being cut in the ring and matches, and frankly matches just in the center of the ring with no one there. I think the more you're cutting away, the more the Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn, Drew Gulak backstage, things like that, the Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross promo this past week, the more of that, the better. I really think that AEW did a great job watching WWE for 2 episodes and being like, what can we do here and what can we do that they haven't done? And they made some decisions that I thought were really smart, like lighting-wise, using a lot of Tony Schiavone interviews. Like, I think it's important. I think WWE, as time goes on, will try to figure out what are the ways you can do it. And I do think that stuff's important. So I agree. I thought airing the Royal Rumble a couple weeks ago was a great idea.
And I've heard
Great idea.
I heard from multiple people, like us hardcores that watch everything and have the network, we were like, oh my god, like this is an hour and a half that I've already seen. I didn't realize this was going to be this long. But I've heard from multiple people that will turn on Raw and they actually don't watch regularly. They turned on Raw to see what it looked like in this venue. And they came and they were like, and it's also really cool that I got to watch the Royal Rumble. So there's a lot of people that turned around and said, oh, this is really cool, and thank God, it was one of the best Royal Rumble matches of all time.
That's the thing. So you win twice. Yes, I agree. I was going to say the same thing. I have a good friend of mine who used to love wrestling, who doesn't watch it anymore, who was like, dude, I watched the Rumble on TV the other day. That was awesome.
Yeah.
So I agree with you 100%. And yes, you're talking about one of the coolest, best written, most perfectly executed Royal Rumbles of all time. So I think it worked out really well. And I think actually, frankly, some programming like that moving forward is not the worst idea. Where, like, on a given week, you do some shows that are sort of like what you were doing on NXT with Pat McAfee, or like the Raw 25 thing that I did with Graves a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Like, those are not a bad idea to just be like, hey, we're going to show you some things that have already happened. We're going to talk a little bit here and there. I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing, as opposed to, and by the way, it may come to that. I mean, we may get to a point where they're not able to even bring together the essential talent to do what they've been doing.
Definitely.
So
you watched how quickly the NBA went from flirting with the idea of doing empty arena basketball games to being like, we're suspending the season. Like, it happened in an instant, and that's just how it happens. Like, so you don't have control over everything.
Exactly. So, but I agree with you. I think cutting away to things like that is a good idea. I just think you have to be really wise. Like, one thing I think was not a good decision, and I know this may sound harsh.
It's the shoot arrow, baby. Let me know.
There you go. Well, the shoot arrow's dead. It's now the safe arrow.
I'm sorry. That's the sellout arrow, baby. Let me know.
Yeah. By the way, I've been meaning to tell you this. I thought you'd appreciate it. The shoot arrow turned out to be this great thing on my podcast where basically once I stopped working there, I was like, you know what? I'm taking the gloves off. This is the shoot arrow. It was actually one of the best things. I'm not good at making marketing decisions for myself generally.
Yeah.
It was one of the best things I ever did, though. It reignited my podcast fan base completely. And guess what? I didn't do anything different than I ever did.
You just called it. I know. I was listening to it, right? And I was going like, I mean, these aren't hotter takes. These are just the takes. This is literally as long as I know Peter.
I know, same thing.
But I mean, that was also like when I started working at WWE, and people were like, Sam, you became a show when you started working. I was like, I remember distinctly you guys called me a show before I started working. Like,
you've always been a show.
I've always been a show. You're like, well, you won't talk about. I've never talked about. Like, I just like WWE, and I always have.
So the funny part is, so I call it the shoot era, and now coming back at this point, I'm calling it the safe era, but really it's the same thing. I will call things out, but I just try not to be unkind about it.
Yeah.
But I will say this. Starting the first SmackDown with Bayley and Sasha on the mic, that's not what I would have done. Mm-hmm. That's not the two people I would have been like, here's the mic, empty arena, let's go for it. It's just, this is a complicated time, and they are still, like, Bayley's still figuring out who this Bayley is. And, like, they then had a match with Alexa Bliss, who basically talked for like 5 seconds. I'm like, start the whole thing with Alexa Bliss. Put the mic in Alexa Bliss's hand. Like, I think it's a time to really think about who do you absolutely trust with the mic most, and give them the mic in the empty arena, because everything is exposed. It is very obvious who has the ability to do it and who maybe is okay but not as good. So I think Sasha and Bayley are improving, but I just think be really mindful about who you hand that mic to stand in the middle of the arena alone.
I think that that's true for the wrestling as well, and I think that as I'm watching, I can see the wheels turning and the evolution happening. Like, even from SmackDown to Raw, the first SmackDown to Raw last Monday, there was much less wrestling on Raw than there was on that first SmackDown. And then when I watched SmackDown on this Friday, it's clear to me that, for instance, Daniel Bryan and Drew Gulak and the Sami Zayn trio, like, those 5 guys are going to be wrestling on every empty arena show. Because they should, because they can, because they're that good. Like, there are some people who just have that, and that's I think something that really gets built, because, let's be honest, those 5 guys have wrestled in empty buildings because nobody bought tickets. You know what I mean? Like, those 5.
Well, it's funny you say that. That was that guy Greg's reply this week.
Right.
When we talked about AEW, and he was like, well, let's be honest, that whole roster is used to performing in front of nobody. These are people who were just indie 2 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And so, yes, those 5 guys that we saw, Daniel Bryan, Gulak, and the Shinsuke, Cesaro, Sammy group, you want to see more of them. It's going to be a harder fit for heavy machinery. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, a character like Otis, who frankly has been maybe the upstart character of the last year. I mean, I think the guy is Chris Farley in WWE. I absolutely love him. From a wrestling match standpoint, though, so much of what he does is crowd-based. That could be more complicated. Some of those things that are intentionally silly and tongue-in-cheek I don't know if they'll play the right way with no crowd behind you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like stand-up comedy. Like, it's a different thing to do that without an audience. Like, even if when it's on TV, you still need... There's a reason why stand-up specials are done in theaters with an audience. Because to just have a guy in a room talking into a microphone, you're not going to get all the nuance.
No, exactly. Cutting a promo on an IG Live, it can be really funny. If there's no one there to laugh at it, it is not as funny. It's just the way it is. Well, Greg and I argued a lot. Our group chat was arguing a lot this week because Greg was saying Mania's going to be fine, and why do you need a crowd? If you need the crowd, you're a lazy fan. And I was like, Greg, come on. Let's be realistic. Like, Hamilton is a great show no matter where you see it. But to see it in front of... If they make a Hamilton movie... Okay, but that doesn't mean you want to see the play in front of no audience.
Of course. Like
make a movie, okay.
If you're the only... And by the way, I did this. I mean, and this is how you know that we're getting to a weird time in terms of content producing. Since I'm at home, more content than ever for the YouTube channel. And last night, I had Jess and Hot Dog and myself, and we did a live watch-along of Cats, the movie.
The movie?
Yes. And I mean... I've seen the play, right? And it's an enjoyable experience to see the play on Broadway now and forever at the Winter Garden Theater. To watch that movie, I'm going, oh my God, not even the song Memory could save that movie. And it's one of the greatest songs of all time. But...
It was that bad, huh? As bad as everyone said.
It wasn't even ironically bad. Like, it was one of those things where I'm like, this isn't even a we can mine for content because it's so bad. It was just like, no, this is... one level worse than that, where you're like, you just have to avoid it because it's that bad.
This is so painful. And so listen, Stat Guy Greg also had an idea that I think is great, which is that he believes, and I'm curious what you think about this, his suggestion was they should cut WrestleMania and shoot it like a movie. Instead of trying to make it an empty arena, change the entire way you shoot the matches and try to make it feel like a produced show specifically for no audience.
You know,
I don't know if it's possible, but I think it would be an interesting thought.
They did that, I think WrestleMania 19 they shot on film. And they produced it, you probably remember, they produced a special called WrestleMania the Movie.
It's incredible, yeah.
And it is incredible.
You mean the doc? You mean the doc or the movie? Oh, they also did.
They called it.
It was just.
It was
the
just
matches were shot that way.
Yes.
Right.
And so they played like the main. They played like Angle and Brock, and they played like those matches on film, and it was amazing to see. Not as a replacement for WrestleMania. Like
just as an accompaniment.
Exactly. So I think that I would still have that urge to see wrestling at least somewhat the way I want it. I think it could be really interesting to shoot it like that. I mean, on my show, I said that they should not have any more matches for WrestleMania and just have 2 2-hour shows. But then they started announcing a ton more matches for WrestleMania. So,
well, so what is it looking like? 4 hours each day?
I don't know, man, because Edge versus Randy is not official yet, but you've got to. I mean, of course it's going to be on the show. They've added Corbin versus Elias. They added the Women's Six-Pack Challenge. Like, they're still, and I'm assuming they're going to add more on Raw. Like, they're adding matches, so this is turning into, I mean, by my list, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I've got 10 matches, or 11 matches already. So it's a full WrestleMania. Just split up. So I think it is going to be 2, 3 to 4 hour shows. What did you think, before we get in, because I've got some takes on these WrestleMania matches that I really want to hear your thoughts on. But before we get there, as we get to the WrestleMania conversation, big thing on SmackDown, Gronk is here. He's coming. He's going to host WrestleMania. Here he comes. And look, I understand Gronk. I guess he's used to entertaining, but he's not an entertainer by trade. He's a football player by trade. He's a patriot, right? So it's a different deal. To have this football man come out to an empty, that's what they're called, right? I don't do sports. Football man.
Yeah, that's the word. You got the word right. It's football man.
Okay, to have this football man come out there in an empty building and have to be like, hey, the reason we have Gronk is because he's life of the party. He's going to hump a ring post. He's going to do all kinds of crazy stuff. But to have his first appearance be with no audience, not the easiest thing in the world for Gronk.
No. And listen, we've known they were going to use Gronk for a long time.
Of course, it's inevitable.
It was inevitable.
Yes.
I've never been excited by it. I am not a Gronk guy. I don't get it. I guess it's like Asking me to understand why sort of a frat party boy is awesome. I'm probably not the target demo for that.
No, this is like when you had a 2-minute rivalry with Barstool that has gotten squashed, by the way. Not trying to restart it, but
not now.
It is that sort of frat guy. It's a different deal.
Yeah, and as my brother put it, this is a guy who's about fun, and I am definitively not a guy who's about fun, I suppose. But
no, you're not. You're a guy who wants to break it down and get intellectual and talk about maybe the social ramifications of what's going on here. And Gronk is really just looking for some White Claws. You know what I mean?
Where's the White Claw? Let me help something. But I just don't get his brand. I don't get it.
It's like if you could have a man, I feel like he is the essence of what Hot Girl Summer was. You know what I mean? It's just
he's Hot Boy Summer.
He's Hot Boy Summer. It's just a good time, and most people probably couldn't pull it off as long as he has. You know what I mean? Somehow Gronk has out-survived LMFAO. Gronk has out-survived. I mean, people aren't doing that anymore, and Gronk still is. But Gronk, but
the situation,
it's over. I mean, now the Jersey Shore comes back, and it's just kind of fun to watch them as old people get out of jail and stuff like that.
Going.
No, Gronk, it's like, oh yeah, Gronk's here, life of the party, and you're like, okay, if anybody can maintain it. I mean, it doesn't hurt that he was part of the, arguably the biggest football dynasty of all time.
Yes. But you're right. It's not an easy spot to come back to.
No, it's not.
His music is. It is what it is.
I think his music was the last LMFAO song. I think that is the last thing that LMFAO left behind was that theme song for Gronk.
Yeah, someone tweeted me it was one of Naomi's songs that she turned down for her. And he comes out and does his thing. And I mean, honestly, he wasn't bad considering I don't think he's talented as a host.
Really?
I watched him on New Year's Eve. Yeah. I don't think he's good. I think he's... I understand people put him on... His Q score must be phenomenal.
Let me ask you this.
Bless him.
Have you seen him react to somebody bringing up the number 69?
Oh, I have.
Oh, you have? Oh, okay. All right.
I know.
Okay.
He's very excited about the number 69.
It's very funny. Because, there's innuendo there.
All that said, I thought he did fine considering, but it's just man, what's that job going to look like for him at Mania in an empty arena? How much can we get?
And how funny is it, too, that after, I think, over a year of developing this mode...
Thanks for letting me know.
Joe is not a party boy thing anymore. They've completely abandoned it and pretend it never happened and just Mojo. He stays hype. You're like, I thought we stopped doing this. I thought he had Luna Vachon marks on his face and...
Anything that had happened over the last year was thrown away after him. He was just you are here to be Gronk's boy now. He's Gronk's second.
And Mojo is like, this is what I've been waiting for. Yes! Where was this all my life?
I mean, and in a lot of ways, you think that's sort of what they felt like about him. Is he's the guy who's connected to Gronk. And, and it's kind of a shame because I think Mojo does have talent. I don't think his character has ever had what it needed. But I do think that, like, I actually think from a promo standpoint, I think Mojo can talk. I do. I think Mojo is very capable. I don't know how good he is in the ring. I've never really seen enough that's gotten me excited, certainly.
Yeah.
But I think he is a talented dude, and I worry that when this is done, where is there to go with Mojo?
I guess.
Unless they have a story where he turns on Gronk.
They could, but where were they going anyway?
Great.
Right. So what are we losing?
No, they paired him up with someone else. That guy now goes on to win the 24/7 championship, and Mojo's still hanging out.
Right. He's like, all right, you're doing your thing. I'll just be over here.
You go ahead.
I hate to interrupt, but I want to let you guys know that I wouldn't be interrupting if you were a Not Sam Shill. The Not Sam Shills are that army that follow us at patreon.com/NotSamWrestling. You may be going through a period in your life right now where you need content more than ever. If you want more Not Sam Wrestling content every single week, you got to sign up at patreon.com/NotSamWrestling, because over at Patreon, you become a Not Sam Shill, and every level member gets access to the Thursday show. There's a second Not Sam Wrestling that comes out every single week. If you're looking for another show, sign up on Patreon. Less than $1 a week, only $4 a month. And on that introductory level, you get Thursday Not Sam Thursday every single Thursday. You also get access to our Discord room where people are talking about wrestling and talking about Not Sam Wrestling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You want to keep going up? You can watch me record Not Sam Wrestling live every single week. You get access to the videos first before anybody else. And of course, you get the podcast every single week, early and ad-free. So what are you waiting for? You can start for less than $1 a week. Go to patreon.com/NotSamWrestling. Become a shill today, or don't. Keep listening to spots like this, and you can listen to this. So let's talk about WrestleMania, because I have the hottest of hot takes for you, and this has been swishing around in my head for some time, for a week now, and I'm ready to declare it, okay? In my mind, the promo that Edge did on Monday Night Raw was better in the Performance Center than it would have been in an arena. I thought Edge's promo was better in an empty building than it would have been in an arena. And this isn't even my hot take yet. That's just like, this is just...
That was only one.
Right. No. You're like, yeah, okay, I can see that.
Yeah,
Here's my take. I believe Randy Orton versus Edge, last man standing, will be better in an empty Performance Center than it would have been in that WrestleMania stadium full of people. I think that
why don't you
match,
tell us why?
it will be better for the same reasons why the promo was better. The promo was better in that empty building because it felt more real, it felt more intense, it felt like we could slow it down, we could listen closely. You know, like the old Jake Roberts rule that, you don't yell, you just bring them in and you make them listen. I was able to do that far more because there weren't a bunch of people distracting from it. It was Edge and the camera, and he was talking directly to Randy through the vessel of me, the fan. And that's why I was able to feel it. I thought that Edge's promo completely adapted to the surrounding that it was in, and it made it that much better. I think that Edge versus Randy Orton, last man standing, will now be able to be like a real old school empty arena match. You know what I mean? Like Jerry Lawler, like Terry Funk, like the Rock and Mankind halftime heat. Like I think that it's a last man standing. I think that they'll be all over the Performance Center. I think they'll be able to go outside. I think they'll be able to do it all. But I think that it will feel much more personal. I think that Edge and Randy Orton are so good, and that's key. It is these two that they'll be able to adapt to the fact that there are no fans, and that we just have to act like this is a fight between two men, one of whom RKO'd the other's wife. I mean, if somebody RKO'd my wife, I'd be furious. I mean,
I can picture it. You'd be
pissed. I'd be pissed. Now, I don't know physically if Randy Orton did it to my wife, could I step to him the way Edge stepped to him? Probably not. I don't have the same physical attributes that Edge does. But the point is, Edge has those physical attributes. And I feel like that this story will ultimately benefit from the empty arena, because we will fall into this match, and this match will tell that story and be able to do it in a very real and raw way that I don't think would have been able to be done if it were surrounded by the pomp and circumstance of WrestleMania.
Well, I enjoy this take, and it's a silver lining take, which is I really like. Because let's be honest.
Yes.
Of everything that's going to happen at WrestleMania this year, the two concerns you had about who was going to really miss out on a deserved opportunity, it was the Edge Randy Orton match, and it's Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. I think those are the two matches that to me have historical implications. That if this Mania turned out to be a real dud, you'd be like, what a shame because of those matches.
And for me, Cena versus Fiend is on that list too, specifically for Bray.
That's a good point, because for Bray this is an important Mania match.
Yes.
That's a very good point. Whoever his match would have been with, I think that's a good point.
For Bray, yeah.
So I like that take, because what may end up happening, if you're right, and you are right that they're capable of making it that good, the two of them are capable of it feeling intense and looking awesome, and us not noticing the shortcomings of the match, like you said, because you can notice people's shortcomings if they're not incredible talents in an empty arena.
Yeah.
That won't happen with them. And it's a last man standing match, let's be honest. They were going to be outside the ring anyway. They were going to be doing God knows what anyway.
But how far into the crowd can they go in a stadium, right? Like, you can only do so much.
I don't like those things in the stadium as much as I like them in arenas. It's not the same thing.
Right.
So it's a really good point, and if it's really as great as you believe it could be, what ends up happening historically is that's all we remember from this WrestleMania.
Very possibly, yes.
That's what it was.
And it becomes
their WrestleMania.
Yes, and it becomes a positive. It can become a net positive just through that one single match. I would like you to present that take to stat guy Greg this week.
I'm going to.
Yes.
I'm going to. And remember, he's a shill too, so I'm sure he'll love it. Anything that's positive, he'll love it. But I also think it's a good way to look at it for Edge too, because otherwise it's such a bummer that this has happened.
Yeah.
Well, listen, the truth is, he got the Rumble pop.
Yeah.
That was going to be the biggest pop he could get.
Yeah.
He got the Rumble pop. It was amazing. Now he has a chance. Forget about the pop. Forget about the crowd. This is just about showing what he can do in and outside the ring still, and he'll have that opportunity. So I hope you're right, and I hope that match is amazing. But let's be honest, that's the story of WrestleMania. It's the best story Randy's been involved in a decade.
Yeah.
It's to me, it's my favorite thing that I've seen on TV in a very long time. I've loved what they've done so far.
In terms of stories, I think that and Cena Fiend are the two stories that I actually am going into WrestleMania going, I'm ready for resolution here. And that probably does trump it. The Orton Edge story does probably trump.
I think it's number one, but I think you're right. Cena Bray has gotten there.
Yeah. Because that was another one, by the way. I thought that their empty arena back and forth was great.
Awesome. That was the best thing they've done in the empty arena so far. Was that promo that Cena and Bray got on each other.
Yep.
But the thing is, it started off so weird. The first episode, the point.
Oh, really? Yeah, the Fiend pointing.
The Fiend point and standing 5 feet away from Cena but not hurting him. Like, I didn't understand it at first.
Right.
And I was like, oh. And then they've sort of worked backwards.
Yes.
And now I have cared about what the story is.
Yes. So, one of the things that has been reported, so apparently they're going to be, this is the internet talking, I don't know for a fact, none of my sources have told me this, just the things that I read on the internet, that because of what's going on, they're taping a ton of wrestling over the next week or so in Orlando, including WrestleMania, just so they can get it all done, so they can have it all. Like, apparently they're going to do, this is what it says, I don't know if it's true, but there are reports that they're going to do multiple episodes of Raw, multiple SmackDowns, multiple NXTs, and WrestleMania, all in one big shot, just to make sure that they have it all ready. One of the other reports is that this is, and I think this is official from WWE, I think in their latest, because WrestleMania has kind of changed, I think the first press release was, it's happening at the Performance Center. The second press release was, it's happening over 2 nights and with Gronk. The third press release, and most recent press
one less thing to worry about.
is, it's happening over 2 nights with Gronk from multiple venues. So that got me to thinking that some of these matches are going to have stipulations that would bring them in to other venues, and that's going to be kind of how they get away from the Performance Center somewhat.
So what kind of stipulations do you mean?
I'm glad you asked, because I have my list of WrestleMania stipulations for you.
Oh, I love this.
I have added stipulations to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches. I've added stipulations to.
I want to hear the steps for each match.
That I think will help. Now, there's a couple that we could discuss. Before I say, I have my 5 that I say these are definitely what I'm doing. And I have 2 that I go, this is what we could do, but I've decided against it because of the seriousness of the matches. The first of the 2 that I've decided against is you could do John Cena versus The Fiend inside the Funhouse or inside some type of Fiend-related space. However, I feel because of the seriousness of the promo last week on SmackDown, where it really did boil down to, we're telling a real story here between John Cena and Bray Wyatt, and how John Cena, without saying the word buried, I mean, the story is basically Bray saying, because you buried me, I had to become the Fiend. And John Cena saying, I didn't bury you, you buried yourself because you're complacent. So I feel like that story is so serious, we have to take it outside of the Fiend. Now, we could still add some lighting. Maybe that's a match where, I wouldn't say we bring the red lighting back, but maybe that's a match where we darken out the rest of the building.
Well,
and we just center on the red.
That should be done no matter what.
Okay, for everything.
I think everything should be, you do not see the seats. I think it should be lit up like a stage, and it looks like a dark, old school. You know how when you go to a house show at the Garden?
Yep.
It should look like a house show at the Garden.
Just darken everything.
Black,
yep.
Except the thing. I really think you should do it no matter what. And obviously with the Fiend you should. We got used to weird lighting in the first place.
Right.
So I definitely think that in that case they should have a darker match. But yeah, I don't think that match needs a stip.
No.
And I agree with you. Funhouse would be too hokey.
And I think Cena can handle an empty building. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Cena is so good that he could figure out how to make that
listen,
work.
but Cena will also suffer from the same thing Cena always suffer. I mean, there is a certain level of cheesiness to the way he works that is always there. But it's also balanced by the fact that he's working with, in my opinion, one of the best there is in Bray.
I'm leaving Roman Reigns and Goldberg traditional in the building, because that in the Performance Center, number 1, that doesn't have to be a long match. Number 2, it's the WWE Championship match. Oh no, it's the Universal title match.
Universal.
And number 3, if you're gonna have Roman be your Universal Champion, just give him the moment in the ring. I don't think that we need to move that match.
No. I wouldn't have hated if their story had more. If there was more animosity, I wouldn't have hated that match in a cage or something just to protect Goldberg. It just doesn't seem that Goldberg has that much.
No, by the way, I have a cage match already. So that.
Oh, you do?
Unfortunately, the cage stipulation has already been given. Yeah, that's already been given to somebody else. But you're on the right track. Drew, Brock, same thing. I think Drew versus Brock could just be an in-the-ring brawl. Give Drew his moment, if that's the direction that's going to go.
And I don't think it is anymore. I think this is a situation where the lack of crowd may dictate what the outcome is.
Meaning that if we're going to give Drew that moment, it needs to be the real moment. If it's going to be in an empty building, just have Brock barely beat him. Barely, but not 30 seconds. Not the Ricochet. Not the Ricochet.
No Ricochet.
Right.
Or everyone else in, basically.
Yeah.
Let them have a match, but I don't think there's a point. Drew doesn't get the same rub if he doesn't win in front of a crowd.
So save it for SummerSlam.
I think so.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad idea.
And we better be outside by SummerSlam.
Who knows? Women's 6-pack challenge. I say just do it in the ring. It is what it is. It's an elimination 6-pack challenge. Start the show with it, whatever. And my final match that I think I'm keeping in the ring, although you could add a stipulation. Shayna Baszler is the cage fighter. You could do Becky Lynch versus Shayna Baszler and an octagon. You could. Wouldn't be the first octagon. You've done Lions cage matches before. Ken Shamrock versus Owen Hart in the Madison Square Garden Theater, of course. And I believe they did one on Raw, maybe with Steve Blackman. But you could do that match in an octagon. However, I think it would get cheesy. I think Shayna Baszler needs to look scary and fierce, needs to look like she can get things done inside a wrestling ring. I think that match needs to just stay traditional.
Yeah, I think it is a fun idea to consider, but ultimately what would happen is it would end up looking really cheesy because now Becky is trying to pretend to be a fighter.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So,
yep.
Why do that? Shayna Baszler has already learned to become a wrestler.
Right.
So you don't need to have Becky pretend to be a fighter.
Yep.
Shayna is a wrestler. So yeah, I think you leave that out.
Okay. Here's my stipulations. Some are just stips. Some are separate venues. Apparently, we're getting Baron Corbin versus Elias. This match takes place in a concert hall.
Well,
I mean, why not?
Listen, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Let's do it. Let's put it in a concert hall. We're not going to have an audience, obviously. We'll put a bunch of instruments on the stage.
Yes.
They go up onto the stage area. They go into the bar area. You know what I mean? It could be great. Do it like at the Gramercy or something.
By the way, that is actually a really fun idea.
Yeah.
And honestly, and who cares about that story?
That's what I mean. So why not just...
There is no story.
Exactly.
So, have fun.
Use it to break up some stuff. We're going to a concert hall now where Baron Corbin is like, "Where are you, Elias? Elias, where are you?"
Yes.
Elias.
He's in the green. He's going in the green room.
Yeah.
There's sodas
Yes.
everywhere. Yeah, I love it. That's a great idea.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
I'm with it.
So Baron Corbin Elias in a concert hall. I think we're moving AJ Styles and The Undertaker, not to a graveyard. That would be super cheese. Street fight on the street. Just an outdoor, on the street fight. Even if you could even do it behind Full Sail. You know where they have that set where like NXT